There is so much going on at the moment, and that's why you're here at DC's Comics. Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Dylan. Welcome back and thank you for joining us. Okay, so what is going on at the moment? What is going on at the moment? So much going on. So much going on. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. There's not that much going on. And what is going on is what was left on the slate and is unaffected by the strike. We will recap the movies and series that still await us and do a bit of a comic catch-up thereafter. So don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you are enjoying the content, and don't forget to leave your thoughts on things that you would like to see more of. But hey, if ever there was one single moment in this endless sea and barrage of projects and movies and series that is Hollywood and media to catch your breath, it is now. So don't delay, call today. Sorry, not an infomercial. That was just a residual reflex from one of my pretending to be sick skipping school days spent watching countless ads because we were not as privileged to have our shows be ad-free, much like a kid today watching Netflix if they were to pull the same stunt. Don't do that, kids. But I mean, I completely hit a wall and couldn't for the life of me think about what to do this episode on. And I don't want to make content for content's sake. I wanted to have some reason behind it and reason for being. I wanted to add value. But then I thought to myself, that's the very reason. That nothing is going on and that pointing it out is its own topic and starts its own conversation. The one time I hoped the voices in my head would kick in and start a podcast and I could just put that to video and then boom, new episode, and no one shows up.
That's not what they really said.
But then again, there is a reason for that. No, not the voices in my head. The fact that nothing is going on. I know there is because I covered that in my previous video. And that is the writers and actors strike. And if that doesn't come to an end soon, what's coming out in the next 6 to 12 months may be our only source of new content, which some people tend to think came out of the factory the morning of. But in actual fact, what comes out now as new was planned more than 2 years ago. It was developed and scripted and filmed and edited and marketed and executed and then comes out as new. There is still a lot going on and still to come, but this is the last scrape of the proverbial Nutella jar. Don't act like I'm the only one who does that. But these coming projects are the last scrape at the bottom of the jar that is geek and comic content, folks. After this though, there is nothing.
That's all, folks.
Anything that was in any other stage besides finished has now been paused, and some hadn't even started this process aside from the announcement. This highlights the extensive results and ramifications of the strike, and as I said previously, pushing a movie date by 6 months is a bold assumption because there is no end in sight for the strike. There were further talks this week, but still, no agreements have been reached. Some of these projects were still in the scripting stage and some not even so. On average, it takes them 2 years to make a movie or a sequel, but now that clock is stuck on 2 years plus and will only begin ticking upon resolution of the strike. So delays are inevitable. And no, not those flavored packets of air we all enjoy, but for the time being,
let's put a smile on that face
and get into what is still to come. Covering all of our geek bases from Marvel to Star Wars to DC. Let's start with some DC today. So I made some posts much like everybody else about Gal returning as Wonder Woman, developing Wonder Woman 3 with Peter Safran and James Gunn, as per an interview she conducted before the strike. And if this is news to you, well then let me stop the excitement right there, as that's actually not the case anymore. Apparently, Wonder Woman 3 is not in active development, but then again, nothing is thanks to the strike. The inconsistency at DC is rife though. They have new heads, but they're playing the same tune. Then, Blue Beetle. The official, unofficial, first hero but not first movie of the DCU. This whole reboot was supposed to stop the confusion, something that I was always on top of. But now, even I'm confused. And I feel for general audience members as even I couldn't explain it to them. So Blue Beetle is in for one hell of a battle, but not with his arch enemy or anything, but with the box office. as the film was tracking for a disappointing domestic opening of only $17 to $20 million. But one tweet in support of the film by Warner Brothers' least favorite person, Mr. Zack Snyder, and apparently the film was tracking at double that. What a terrible person, right, Warner Brothers? The DCU is supposed to kick off with Creature Commandos and Superman Legacy, but that whole chapter of this new book of a DC live-action universe is just gathering dust amidst all that's going on. My Adventures with Superman wraps its first season this week, and the 4th season of Harley Quinn wraps its 10 episodes in September. Aquaman is still slated for release this December, but that about dries up the well for DC at the moment.
Now, with the massive success of Barbie having already become Warner Brothers' highest grossing film of all time,
I bet they're wishing they could add Barbie to their DC lineup, now especially as next year may well be a year of no DC content, as I had feared, and those fears seem to be coming to life. Star Wars, on the other hand, has Ahsoka coming out, and from the trailers I am very excited, as it seems like it could be one of the better entries in series to the Star Wars canon. I think it has the potential to be incredible, but it will all come down to the execution. I just hope Ahsoka brings the goods, especially because that's all that 2023 still has to offer from Star Wars. If you are after that still craving some fixes now and for the foreseeable future, it may have to come from some comic book pages or the old reliable rewatch. Marvel has a great offering around the corner with the 2nd season of Loki, which is by far and by general consensus Marvel's best series, and its return now could not be more timely. Some good MCU action to make Secret Invasion more true to its name, because it did feel like a secret invasion on us fans. A secret I wish they had kept so hush that we didn't know about it. We still have one big MCU movie entry and the Echo series to close out 2023.
I can't.
So now onto the comic side of things. My fears at DC may well be coming true, but some fears are more welcomed, such as the ones that spawned in Night Terrors, the DC comic event which is now ongoing. Sure, there are complaints that it has paused the dawn of DC events, and natural worries that it won't fulfill its promise, much like Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths before it. I for one was not particularly excited about yet another horror theme of DC comics, but these have gone over surprisingly well. Onto the dark side, and no, not of DC.
So dark! DJ you're not from the DC universe!
Does DC even have a light side? I meant of the Force, with our favorite helmet-wearing protagonist. Sorry, that's a bit too widespread of a statement for this franchise. I meant Darth Vader. Because in Darth Vader number 37, killer droids have taken over his flagship superstar destroyer, the Executor, and all that stands between him and an untimely doom are the lessons from Jedi Masters Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So this onslaught of killer droids is another widespread thing coming from the corruption of droids from the who, or what, that is the Scourge, in an epic like you've never seen before from Charles Soule, in his comic Star Wars Dark Droids, which is already on its 2nd printing. Sure, the comics rehash some parts of the lore, but there are really cool stories that explore eras and characters and periods that are yet to make their way to live action. And now is a great time to get into them and get acquainted before they pop up in the next movie or Disney Plus series. And over to other Marvel comics where Spider-Man has denounced Spider-Boy, aka Bailey Briggs, claiming that Spider-Man never had, never has, and never will have a sidekick. But Spider-Boy was lost and confused, so Spider-Man took him to Daredevil for some help.
Then, speaking of receiving help from an unlikely source, it's Moon Knight, who was resurrected by Khonshu, but it's not as simple as you would think. After Moon Knight's death at the hands of his enemy Raoul Bushman, his girlfriend Marlene Olraine was furious at Khonshu for not reviving him, despite being perfectly able to. So I guess you'll have to check out Moon Knight in the What If Dark comic to see how this all unfolds.
And well, what if the X-Men went dark? Well, they have, and it's not a what if, but a new ongoing comic series.
After the Hellfire Gala was crashed by Orcus along with MODOK and Dr. Stasis, many X-Men lost their lives, including founding members Jean Grey and Iceman. No, not him, but he's super cool and definitely could have cut it as an X-Men. And this has led to an unlikely group forming the Dark X-Men in a new comic which released this week past. It's not all doom and gloom, and not everything has gone boom in Dexter's lab. We still have some projects to tide us over, and hopefully the strike resolves itself in the interim, so that our favorite franchises' content creation can continue to satiate our geek. We do still have our weekly comics, and we can always do a rewatch of some of our favorites, but the rest of us are just going to be playing catch up. As always guys, it's awesome giving this comic clan the rundown. This is the way. Have a great day.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way. This is the way.